If you have tried to learn anything about GenAI recently, whether on Google or YouTube, there is a good chance that you actually either got distracted or overwhelmed or both and then just gave up. If that has happened to you, you're not alone. So let's fix that. It's not good. So here are 5 ways that GenAI can help you today in your 9 to 5 career and make it better. Let's get started. I often talk about RPA on my channel, so some of the things that I say in this video may be only applicable to RPA, but in general, these 5 ways are applicable to any career, regardless of what you work in. There was a time when a trend actually lasted a while. These days, I just get up every morning and I read about this new AI trend that is breaking the internet and breaking all the records. To quote the modern philosopher Ed Helms, "What the f is going on?" This is why I've been obsessed with this question lately. If GenAI is supposed to be this amazing technology that anyone can learn and make a lot of money immediately, then why, when someone actually tries to learn online, all they find is noise rather than actually helpful material? So in this video, let me give you some helpful material. Let's start with the first one. Avoid the get rich quick with AI schemes on the internet. If you're anything like me, you've tried to learn about AI from Google or YouTube, and sometimes it can feel like you're walking through a carnival or a Meena Bazaar, where there's just a lot of flashing lights and bells and whistles shouting at you about making millions in minutes. But while that may work for some solopreneurs, often these ideas are not really relevant to a 9 to 5 career, and that's what they are. They're just ideas. I am not disputing that people have made a lot of money from building something from scratch and making it a really easy financial project on the side. That's not what I'm claiming. However, when you're working in your 9 to 5 job, I think it's easier to get distracted by all of these promises rather than maybe focusing on how you can make use of GenAI today in your day-to-day workflow. That could mean getting AI to draft a basic presentation or the very first draft of your Word document or Excel spreadsheet, so that you can save a lot of time in just starting from scratch. It will give you a basic template of, let's say, a process document, or if you're building a process map, you can just give GenAI a prompt about what you're trying to do, what kind of process you're trying to map, and it'll give you a basic structure so that you can get started from there rather than scratching your head about, oh, like, where should I start and how many blocks should I have in my process map, things like that. So focus your energy on those simpler things that can make your overall workflow easier in your day job, rather than focusing on building something from scratch and achieving this great result. You should absolutely do that if you want, but that's a different discussion. What I'm talking about is just focus on making your day-to-day 9 to 5 workflow easier, whether you're working in RPA or not. This is something that you can absolutely use. If you are working in automation, then just like me, you're actually building these workflows often for other customers, and that will give you some practice and that'll give you some ideas on how you can use that in a different area in your work. So while you build automation for customers, why not build automation for your own workflow that makes your job easier? And then that just means that you can give more attention to other customer projects. Next up, making GenAI your sidekick. Let's get practical. I work in UiPath and other automation technologies, and yet I have been using GenAI assistants for months now, alongside UiPath, for example, to make certain parts of the building of an automation easier. It could be a code snippet that has a very specific purpose, for example, building a very complex logic about regular expressions. Now, that is something, even when working in a low-code, no-code technology space, you would still need to solve complex business requirements like a regular expression to validate some customer input data that is coming in. And it can take a lot of retries to get the regex just right if it's a very particularly complex business requirement. You don't have to feed GenAI any specific information, but just give it the basic prompt with all the rules specified in text format, and it'll build you a regular expression that you didn't have to go and try on 5 different regex websites to make sure that it sticks. That's just a good example of how you could have code snippets on demand without compromising or sharing any specific customer sensitive information with GenAI. If you are concerned about that, then make sure that you're working, then make sure that you're using your company's protected or isolated instance of GenAI. If that's not possible, then obviously there are other ways where you can just download an offline version of a model and then speak to it rather than sharing your information with the online chatbot, because they will use this information for for their own training. Which means if you share any sensitive information with your chatbot, then that is potentially being used in a public forum, just to train the model to be better. And that's not all right with any customer, obviously. So you have to be really careful with that. A few other examples of how to use GenAI as your sidekick is you can have it make documents or map out processes that are not really part of your requirements. For example, if you're working on a customer project, of course you can have the process map or PDD template created by GenAI, but you could actually have it do some things that are not actually standard. For example, how to work within a team. So you could have GenAI come up with ideas and sort of like a standard operational procedures (SOP) within your team, on how you can say share code repositories together and what are the standards that you follow. So you can have it draft all of these things by feeding it the general prompt, and that document can then go and live on your wiki. You can speed up the process of creating documents that are used for your internal training, not just for customers. That's a great example. You could have it create test cases by simply giving it a basic structure of what is the process you're following. Or again, if you have a secure environment where you don't have to be concerned about sharing sensitive information with the GPT or with the model, you can just feed the requirement documents to the model and it'll create test cases for you that you can then utilize in your testing workflow. Next one, know your tech. Are you dealing with AI or Gen AI? There's a big difference. Gen AI is a very specific flavor of the artificial intelligence world, but AI incorporates a lot of different things. I have a whole video talking about the terms used in the Gen AI world today, and I'll link it in the description for you. But speaking of knowing your tech, specifically talking about RPA, there are a lot of different tools that are already used by the RPA technology companies in specifically artificial intelligence, and they have nothing to do with the Gen AI models that we are discussing in this video. As an example, in UiPath, there are traditional AI tools like document understanding, communications mining, AI Center, even machine learning for training your documents in a document understanding project. Whereas there's the new Gen AI tools like UiPath Autopilot, there is agents, which is available. They are available through Agent Builder. There's agentic automation, which is available through Maestro, their agentic orchestrator, and also healing agents, which is a recent addition to the RPA world, where in UiPath, an RPA process can fix itself by detecting any changes in the target application without the developer having to go and fix them manually and deploying a new version. In Power Automate, there are things like AI Builder, which includes forms and object detection, and Process Advisor, which is their AI powered process mining. One thing to remember, don't pick the one with the flashiest marketing. Don't build an agent just for the sake of building an agent in a professional setting. If you're practicing, absolutely go crazy. But when you're advising the customer, be actually very sure that they do need that agent, because adding an agent to a process where it doesn't need to be will only make your process bulkier and less efficient instead of actually helping out the customer and the process. So that's a very important distinction to make. Know your tech and also make sure that you use that position to advise the customers properly. A quick note, if you haven't started learning UiPath yet, or you have but you want to level up faster, then you can join my 7-day RPA and AI challenge. It'll help you jumpstart your RPA and AI learning, and also it'll give you a step-by-step process to grow your professional network and improve career opportunities. The link for that is down in the description. Join today and you'll receive the first email right away. Next up, avoid the shiny new AI syndrome. We've all had the shiny object syndrome at one point or more points in our life. There's always the newest iPhone or the newest Android or even the newest graphics card, the next best 55-inch, 65-inch TV and 75-inch TV. So it never really stops. And it's also very easy to do the same thing when it comes to the Gen AI models. Every 2 to 3 days, you will find a new update about how this newest model has broken all the benchmarks, all the previous benchmarks held by any of the companies together. Now, it's very easy to get lost in that. So there's obviously one overwhelm that happens when you're just starting to learn, and then everything's new and you have no idea what everyone's talking about. But it's just as easy to also get lost into the technicalities of everything. So even when you are on top of all of the latest knowledge, it's so easy to just keep updating your knowledge every 2 days, and then forgetting the real point is where's the consistency. So with the introduction of every new technology, if you keep changing your stack, which is if you keep changing your workflow, then it will be difficult to keep consistent results coming from your daily workflow, or you'll just get overwhelmed in re-engineering your workflow every now and then because new updates will keep dropping in this space. It's very new and there's new updates happening every day. So you have to be really careful not to get go with the flow, and that going with the flow is easy. What's hard is actually sticking to maybe 2 or 3 tools and using them to get consistent results in whatever you're trying to do. To avoid the new shiny AI syndrome, do these 3 things. Consistency. Do your research, go out and find all of the tools that are available, give them some serious prompts that will give you different results. If you want, compare the results, and then if you think one is better than the other in whatever you're trying to achieve, then use that. So just stick to 1 or 2 tools. That'll give you consistent results over time. Second is mastery. Once you've picked the 1 or 2 tools that you really like, master them. Communicate with them, refine your prompts so that every time you refine the prompt, you will see that the result is a little bit better. They'll also learn how you communicate, and the models will give you more consistent and uh, you know a better output each time you prompt them because you've refined the prompts over time. And the third one is review. So yes, do pick 1 or 2 tools, and yes, do master them over time, but at the same time, on the side, keep learning about anything new that is happening. So you should absolutely keep yourself and your knowledge up to date. All I'm saying is just don't break your entire flow just because there's a newer and better update, because they will keep happening. So at one point into the future, you might actually think that there is value in replacing one of the tools that you consistently use with something new that has absolutely changed the game for good. And then in that case, it might actually make sense to do that, but it will be a more informed decision rather than just blindly following the trend. And the last one is for the skeptics. Embrace AI. Look, you may have your doubts, but AI is not going anywhere. The sooner you get comfortable using GenAI in your daily workflow, the better your workflow and more indispensable you will become. You don't have to jump off the deep end, so to speak. Start small, build confidence, and then scale up over time. Your future self and your boss will thank you. Pro tip: keep a prompts library. It could be a prompts database in Notion, or it could simply be a single page entry in your OneNote. But anything that you prompt an AI agent or Gen AI chatbot with, keep that prompt for use later. Save yourself the trouble of crafting that same prompt again when you need a slightly different regex or a really well drafted email, for example. So next time you're walking through the Gen AI carnival, remember to ignore the noise and focus on these 5 things. However, there are a lot of important terms in the Gen AI world that are still important for your general workflow, but even they can sometimes be confusing. And to make your life easier, I have listed them all here in this video. I'll see you in the next one.